Okay, so where we left off is we had Martin Luther King Jr. emerging as a leader in the civil rights movement. And the civil rights movement is going national, where it was a very local thing prior to the 60s, where it was a local fight. I mean, segregation was more national and the Brown versus Board, but locally fighting for busing desegregation or lunch counters to be desegregated and so forth. We see these protests end up on TV, these attacks end up on TV, and it becomes a national issue. This is when Martin Luther King Jr. really emerges nationally as a leader here. We see some of those protests were in Birmingham, Alabama, 1963. The North and the rest of the world watches on TV. We see that Ole Miss and University of Alabama are trying to prevent black students from attending their universities. There's protests, riots, so forth. Again, the violence is on television. John F. Kennedy is president at this time, and he proposes federal legislation to outlaw segregation. However, John F. Kennedy's in a weird situation here. It's hard for him he's a Democrat, and the South votes Democrat at this time. He needs Southern Democratic support, so he has to be careful how aggressive he gets with this if he wants to get reelected and so forth. We see in August of 1963, 2,000 individuals march on Washington protesting civil rights abuses and so forth. And this is when Martin Luther King Jr. delivers his famous "I Have a Dream" speech. I encourage you to look it up on YouTube and watch his "I Have a Dream" speech. So we have John F. Kennedy. So the federal government's reacting to this violence, reacting to these murders, reacting to things that are going on. And John F. Kennedy creates the Civil Rights Division of the Justice Department to try to speed up what's going on here. So John F. Kennedy, however, has no mojo. He can't get these things through Congress. Again, he needs that Southern Democratic support. However, his assassination brings his issues to the forefront. Anything that John F. Kennedy was attached to when he's assassinated gets a lot of heat and gets a lot of pressure here. It gets a lot of momentum. And that's where we have his vice president, Lyndon Johnson, who then becomes president. He has the mojo. He has the support to get these things through Congress. He has some big things that are just even bigger than civil rights. We have education reforms, healthcare reforms, an overall war on poverty, which is referred to as LBJ's, Lyndon B. Johnson's Great Society. So, big achievement here, Civil Rights Act of 1964. He gets the legislation through. It outlaws segregation in public facilities across the country, outlaws economic discrimination, housing discrimination, and so forth. And it also strengthens voting rights. Preventing black people from voting in the South was one of the ways that the white controlling class prevented true justice and true civil rights. And the Civil Rights Act begins to strengthen that. Then the Voting Rights Act really takes it to the next step. We have literacy tests, which were used to prevent people from voting. There's federal assistance to help people get registered to vote. Poll taxes are outlawed. And truly, African Americans, after the Voting Rights Act, are truly given the right to vote and made sure that they're able to vote. That's going to wrap up civil rights, and we will hop into the next topic next week.